when we go live, I can see it click.
We're on it.
All right. Welcome to the Goddess-ity podcast. I am one of your hosts, Goddess April, and I am here with my co-hosts, Goddess Juanita and Goddess Akili.
Hey.
Today we have a great show for you. We've done so many shows, actually, you guys. And of course, my screen just disappeared.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm just going to go with it because that's what we do.
You know what? Technology.
Today's show is about transcending fear, guys, the true power within. Okay, what I was going to say was that we've done so many shows at this point. At least it feels like a lot to us. I don't know about y'all, but we've done a lot of shows about a lot of topics. And one topic that has come up many times is the topic of fear. So we thought that it deserved its own episode, and we may even end up doing a series, okay? Because you can talk about it in a plethora of contexts, okay? But also, we've touched on our journeys, each of us individually, and I forgot to mention, if you don't see Goddess Linda, it's because she is abroad, living her best life. Hey, Goddess Linda, if you watching.
Goddess, have fun for me.
I mean, y'all just be out here traveling.
I'm telling you, we love you. Now, she may pop in the studio, I don't know, or pop in the chat, but if not, we understand, child. Have fun, okay?
Yes, please.
But we also thought it made sense, just so that you guys may get a little bit more of an insight into kind of like, where it all kind of began for us, which for each of us, our spiritual journeys, we grew up in Christianity, okay? Which I know a lot of people have, especially in the West. And, it's not a coincidence. We're talking about fear, and then we also were talking about maybe taking a moment to talk about, how things got started and realize how closely tied those things are. Okay. So we're going to actually talk about the hypocrisy around the fear of faith. Goddess Akili is going to get into that. Mm-hmm. I'll touch on how Christianity breeds fear. And then Goddess Juanita is going to get into embracing your personal divinity as a way to overcome fear. We want to make sure that we end on a very high note because that's what we do. Okay. So without further ado, I am going to pass it over to Goddess Akili to get into the hypocrisy around the fear of faith.
Yeah, yes, and more. Yes. Thank you, Goddess April, for that lovely introduction. And let us jump into the mix with both feet here. So, like April mentioned, right, all of us have a history with Christianity. And with that being said, we have a history, and then there was a transition that was made, and we'll talk about our reasoning behind that, and we'll get deeper into it even on future shows. But one of the things that really pushed me in a space from moving to a more ancient African spirituality or Cometicism from Christianity was just a lack of understanding fully and completely what I was believing in and the fear that was being created about me questioning certain aspects of that belief. I don't feel like that's something that should have to happen. And I do feel like you should be free to question. Okay. That's how you find out the best information. So when we get into the mix of Christianity, and we start talking about, some of the historical and cultural perspectives, the first thing that comes up for me when I think about fear and Christianity is the idea of hell. The idea of hell, the idea of hell, and the hellish idea of hell.
Mhm.
Yes, I mean, whole concept, and people will know I am a questioner. I have 76 questions at all times, ready and rocking and ready to go. The concept of being in a space of eternal damnation has been such a big piece of the puzzle for getting people to um maintain their spot in the church, or maintain this feeling that, if you don't obey, if you don't listen, if you're not practicing all of these supposed Christian values, then you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be eternally damned to hell. Now, the concept of hell itself doesn't even make any sense to me. And I understand on a spiritual perspective, there, people can mix the spiritual with the physical and try to make it make sense all it wants to. But I don't understand, if your soul is in eternal damnation, why is there burning of flesh? You are not flesh anymore. You are a soul. So, what is exactly on fire? Why do you smell burning? Why is there gnashing of teeth? You are a soul. You don't have teeth. You don't need teeth. Okay. These concepts and ideas that are drudged up, just again, of this lake of fire and the eternity of burning, a big issue for me, and also not aligned with what the ancient African principles, where all of this was birthed from, are even stating. Okay, I repeat, not aligned with what the ancient African principles that birthed Christianity are even talking about. Another component that, I think is you know pretty challenging is just the concept of sin to begin with, right? That we come into this world as very sinful people, and again, it's not that I don't believe that we come in with duality. That is what exists in nature. There are opposites all over the place, right? But I don't believe that we come in with this concept that we're all pre-programmed to do these evil things, and there's this constant drive that we have to have every day to try to avoid doing these evil things, because that's just what has been put upon us as a curse. I mean, the story, when you really think about the fabrications around what has been created, it's unbelievable, how much fear has been driven into these principles so that you can ultimately obey. And we'll get into, some more of that as we go. Now, when I think about the cultural aspects in terms of Black people and Christianity, there's a lot of things that make my heart hurt, think about us. One of the first things that comes to mind for me is the fact that out of the creation of Christianity, from what I'm going to call the bastardization of African spirituality, you know, there became different books and different ways to try to make sure this word was circulated around. The fact that there was an actual slave Bible, that was the title of the book, the Slave Bible, that was actually created as a document to provide for the enslaved Africans, mainly in the areas of the Caribbean. this particular Bible had passages that were removed that would even give people the inkling that they had hope, or they had the ability to rise above their situation, or that they were more than just someone who was enslaved. There was a great deal of editing that took place in that Bible, and a goal to make sure that it was focused on obedience and submission to authority, right? And through the use of that slave Bible, you know, people were given the opportunity to kind of become pastors, if you will, in some right, and preach that message to more slaves. Enslaved Africans were given the ability to continue to propagate that message. And we need to pay close attention to what that looks like, or how that relates to what's going on today. It's not a far cry from what's happening, and we need to be clear that we understand. Now, the King James Version of the Bible that we all, you know, are aware of today, we need to be very clear about the fact that the King James Version had a lot of the components that the slave Bible had removed, but we still need to be very clear that that version of the Bible is an extremely Protestant, Eurocentric, European focused version of the Ethiopian Bible, which was the original. People again know that Ethiopia is in Africa. Right?
Sometimes you gotta say it. I mean,
You got to say it.
Ethiopia is in Africa. Okay. All right. So again, they took the principles, King James took the principles, the Europeans took those principles, and they took out of the Ethiopian Bible the information that they felt like they needed to use to subdue their society, values that needed to make sense for their culture, okay, which is not African culture. All right. I feel like that needs to be said, and people of African descent need to understand that what was going on in European culture was not the same things that were going on in African culture. And that is a different podcast, child, for a different day. But I'm just saying the things that they needed to create to instill some controls and some structure were, again, not things that we also needed to create within our own culture. Okay.
Goddess Keely,
Yes.
would it be wrong for me to just insert just the understanding of the organization and the power and the resources and the academia and science and math and astronomy and astrology and all of those things that were happening in Africa? Because if you don't say that, I just feel like people might assume, right, that there was this disorganized, heathen, all over the place type of situation happening, versus this very much got it together, right, in the West, and that's the opposite, right?
Absolutely.
So I just want, and I know that's what you were alluding to.
Yes.
I had to take the opportunity to just say that.
Go on and lift the skirt on the table. Okay. Go on and lift up the table skirt and say that thing. Right. Goddess April is so right. I feel like when you are bringing information, and if we're just looking at ancient Egypt in particular, if we're just looking at Kemet, you're looking at a society that, from what we can see today, if we look at the 42 laws of Ma'at that were governing that society, and also know that there, you know, in plenty of writings that they show there were way more than 42. Okay. There were a variety of different things that the Africans had in their society in place to structure that society. That's where we get modern day government from, as it is. anything that you believe that has to do with the structuring of a society, we were already doing that thing at an extremely advanced level.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the Europeans who were coming and learning from the Africans, putting together the best bits and pieces of information that they could based on what they understood and based on what we were teaching. Okay. They then needed to take some information back to their society where the 42 laws of Ma'at did not exist, and a lot of other things that were going on in terms of constant warring and just all kinds of different ways of being. Okay. Um, I don't want to say that the society as a whole was just nothing but chaos, but I do feel like where order does not exist, chaos will break out. Right. So they had to create some ways to create some controls to try to build some type of foundations to pull a lot of their people out of darkness.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Goddess April, for taking us there. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, since she brought this up, right, we have to really understand that, again, Christianity's roots come from Africa, right? Any kind of spiritual thought or system, we understand the birthplace of that thing came out of the original people. I know, again, there is all this thought that circulates around, like Goddess April mentioned, that, oh no, just humanity came from there, but not actual civilization, not actual society, not actual science, not actual organized thought. And I don't understand how people come up with those concepts when you're reading the information off the wall of a pyramid that you still don't know how it was built until this day. Okay. So I'm going to have to disagree with all of that in the face that the facts are actually sitting in front of you. You can physically go see these manifestations of what our science was and is. But again, with those concepts coming out of ancient Africa, once again, it was being taught to Europeans, the Christianity that they then took and started to personify and started to make myths, actual literal stories and accounts. The information that they just decided to insert in there that wasn't a part of the story to begin with, or to change it, just like the concept of the Trinity, right? That whole concept has been changed by Europeans. The original Trinity is not the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It is a man, a woman, and a child. Right? That is a totally different concept. Yeah. Right. And again, it was something that they needed to do to make things work the way they wanted them to in their society. Africans were just fine with the understanding that it was a man, woman, and a child. That worked. Okay. That worked well in Africa. Right. So again, I want you guys to be able to understand that version of Christianity that so many of us as Black people get today is still extremely based on these Eurocentric principles, and it is out of alignment with what our original understanding of spirituality is and was at the time. Okay. So I am focused on trying to do things that connect me as much as possible with what, our original people did. Yeah. And that's what I love to do. So, with how things stand now, because we have these very Eurocentric views, I think things are still extremely fear-based in our communities and Black communities. I feel like there should be no reason why there are more churches and liquor stores than actual banks or hospitals or spaces that teach people about how to build businesses or things that allow us to create longevity and elevation within the community. I understand the design,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But I want us to be very clear about where this idea is getting us, right? This idea that we have faith in this entity that is outside of us to do all of these things for us, that is again out of alignment with the principles that we created.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand that we created the original principles. Go back there. That is where we have to go, right?
Mhm.
Now, again, I'm only giving high level overview here because we are not going to talk about this all night and get into a 5 hour long podcast. But one of the things I think about in terms of just personal experiences in the church, the biggest one being whenever I would try to ask questions when I was heavily into Christianity about things I didn't understand in the Bible, things I didn't understand. Well, God said this here, and then we came over here, and then he changed his mind. And then now he's backpedaling a little bit and like, well, I didn't know that was going to happen. How did he not know it was going to happen? Like, I don't understand these things. I thought he knows all things.
Yeah.
And people would just be like, don't ask questions about that. Because when you ask questions about that, that means that you don't believe. And I'm like, it's not that I don't believe, but the story seems unbelievable. Like, can you some more information about how these things happen? Oh, you don't know how? Okay, I understand that, right? And they just wanted you to have a blind level of faith in the pastor and a blind level of faith in the Bible. Honey, they should have never let me have access to the internet or any of these other pieces of information, because the information is out there clear as day that lets you know that this is not the text that you need to be reading, right?
Yep.
So I think it's hypocritical for us to be in a situation that we continue to celebrate something and say this is in honor of the Most High when the information is not even accurate. To me, that is hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I love you, Black people. I really do. But I'm just saying this is how I feel about the situation. Now, what do I feel like we should be doing instead? Well, you want to be shifting your attention to true power. I absolutely believe in and love God. I love me some the creator. Okay, everything about it. But I also believe that we are manifestations of God. And as a result, that makes me a goddess and it makes others gods, right? That's what I feel like. We are individual walking manifestations of the Most High.
Yeah.
So, with that, I don't need to look outside of myself to make changes, to get power, to manifest things, to elevate myself. I can do those things with that power. I've been given the power.
Yeah.
It's my birthright. I don't have to do any magical things to get it. I might have to do some things to be able to get to the frequency so I can hear the communication, but I don't have to do anything deserving to get it. I'm here.
Yeah.
That's all that needed to happen because 57,000 things needed to occur to get Akili here in this exact manifestation of who sits in front of you. That was it. I'm here. I'm the one. So I already have that as a gift and a choice and a talent and whatever else we want. Whatever else we want. So we're going to talk more about these. My goddesses are going to go more into the ways that you can tap into this power. But I really just want to, kind of leave us with the concept of that fear-based religious teaching very well may be limiting you in terms of what you have the capacity to become. Just for fear that you have to constantly believe you will never be this good, and you're supposed to want to be like Jesus, but no, you'll never reach it.
Yeah.
What kind of
Yeah.
what kind of dangling carrot participle is that? I don't want that. So that's my piece about the hypocrisy and the fear around faith.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to throw in a little bit about that, I guess for me, the whole religious teaching about it was, I mean, my thoughts always been like, if you have this creator that's supposed to love you, how is it that he's going to bring you to a place where you're cursed before you're even born? I mean, how is that love, right? How is that love? How is that you love me so much that you will send your son to die for me, but you'll put me in a position that no matter what I do, I'm still cursed? That doesn't seem like the same person. It seems like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing, which just does not line up. So when you start analyzing, I think, Goddess-ity, when you're talking about people that want you to ask questions, they didn't want you to ask questions because the responses they would give you would not make any sense, right? Because when you start asking questions, and I can remember as a kid, my brother was, oh my God, my oldest brother was famous. He would ask so many questions when we were kids. The minister would get mad because he could not answer the questions. Like simple things, like if Adam and Eve was the only man and woman, and then whatever the sons, they killed it, and one of them went off to marry somebody. How is that possible when they're the only people? You know, it made sense to me. The question was like, that make a whole lot of sense.
Okay? Exactly. Okay.
Answer that question. And it was just like, no, you don't understand, you know. And this is like everything was always like it was a big thing to ask the question. But the whole point I think we have to realize in all of this about faith, about anything that you do, whenever someone tells you you cannot be analytical and use your mind to get to an answer, there has to be a problem, right? If you can't let me analyze this thing and we can't talk about it and discuss it and make it make sense, then there's something wrong with the whole thing. I mean, you just got to know that, right? It just doesn't make sense.
That's right. And learning is literally asking a series of questions.
Right.
Like what you're telling me is you don't want me to learn this information. You just want me to regurgitate what is said.
Yes.
And there's something about that for all of us that should just make you ask the question. Yeah. And where are the dinosaurs? I mean, nobody mentioned not one Stegosaurus, not one T-Rex.
Just give me one. Just one.
That is so funny. And you know what, too? Like that whole, not questioning. And it's so interesting that we just like copied and pasted that, which we've done our segments, our episodes on relationships, and one of them being the parent-child dynamic. We copied and pasted that and did that with our own children, where they're not allowed to ask questions.
Yep.
You just do what I say, and it's why. I mean, think about how many times a baby child asks why.
Yes.
It's because, like you just said, that's how you learn. It's by asking. I don't know. Can you please tell me?
Yes.
And so think of right. And so think about how many times your parent, grandparent, whoever, like reprimanded you for asking why, or like it was considered talking back. And it's like, because I said so, or whatever it is, like, don't question me, what I mean?
Right.
And how unfair we know that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We understand that now today we're able to see how that's skewed in parenting, but like what the person personified, this entity that we call the father, would treat us that way, right?
Yeah.
But I digress.
No, you're right on something. You didn't digress.
No,
okay.
That's all. Why do you wire us to ask questions and then not want us to do it?
Yeah.
that
So they
that
always said, "What if you could go and seek the Lord, and anything that you want, you can seek, and you should knock, and the door shall be open." I mean, what's the whole thing, right? Okay, I'm knocking and I'm seeking. So then,
Yeah.
what's
right? I don't seek with questions. Just go there
yeah?
and be like, what's in here?
The
That's it.
contradictions,
The
That's
child.
all that's
contradictions,
all
right?
you
The
can say. It's like,
contradictions. So either I can ask questions, I can seek, and I can learn, and we're here to have a discussion. Because really, what we could do in Christianity is have a really good discussion, and we probably all would learn a lot if we would just say, "Okay, y'all, there's some things that just don't make sense.
exactly.
How do we discuss these things in a way that we can align ourselves with it and get okay with it, right? Because that's what we want to do. We want to have our quickest connection to God. However, we have to find a way to do that. That's what we want to do. And I think with me, and probably with most of us here, we kept trying to find our way to God. And I don't know how many Bible studies I've done over 20, 30 years. Oh my God. I have done so many Bibles, this way to go, this way to go. I don't know how many studies I've done. And every time I did a study, I still came back to the same place. I still didn't know no more than when I started doing the study, right? I still had the same questions about everything. And everybody would say, "Oh, well, you just gotta pray, you gotta do this to get the answer, you gotta do this to get the answer." And you try doing all of that. And then finally you start thinking, okay, something is not right with this thing, right? Because I'm still in the same, it's like I feel like I've been in the same place for the last 20 years and I
Right.
ain't going no further. So something, and like I'm gonna say this as we kind of go through. I thank the creator for Christianity because I still believe Christianity is what got me to here. Without
Oh,
that,
yeah.
I wouldn't even understand how to get to this place, if you understand what I'm saying, right? It's like it
Yes.
took that. We all have our journey, and that journey of Christianity got me to a point that at least I understood that there was someone higher, there was something higher, there was something bigger than me. I had some encounters, I'm sure we all did, some very high spiritual encounters in that place that I thought, hey, it was this person outside of me. But I realized later it wasn't outside of me, it was within me that I was having this spiritual connection, right? So I think I don't regret any of my journey with Christianity because I still believe that got me where I am and why I'm right here today, right? That was all of my journey. That was all the spot I had to be at. So
Yeah.
I do believe that. I just think when we get there, and for some people, maybe getting there is all they want, right? They might
Yeah.
not want to. But this right here, spirituality, is for if you want to go further
Yes.
than just believing what somebody is telling you, right? And regurgitating those sayings back and throwing up your hands and saying the hallelujahs and whatever. And you know what I'm saying? It's for if you're ready to go higher, because what we're trying to say in this really, right, is that in spirituality, there's so much more. So much more, right? So much more.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm glad that you said that, Goddess Juanita, because I want people to know that this is not about us bashing
No.
Christianity at all.
No.
I too appreciate, right? I got some very great things out of Christianity, actually. If you hold on to the things that don't breed fear, okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, because honestly, you know, there were when I think about my own childhood growing up, and I feel like I told this story in KCL, I'm not sure, but I'm this little girl in Bible class and I'm coloring books and I love church. Like I was a lap baby in the church, sitting on my grandmother's lap in the choir.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I got old enough, she started letting me go downstairs to the kids' church. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just enjoying myself. And I'm hearing all of this, how much we singing Jesus loves you.
Yes.
Yes, for the Bible tells you so. Little ones, oh, snap, he talking about me.
Yeah.
To him belong, right? They
Yes.
are weak, but he is strong. And I felt so loved and protected and right?
Yes.
And then
Mm.
Adam and Eve, that story, we got to that page in the coloring book.
Yeah.
Child, rearrange my whole situation. So
Mm.
you're talking about this 5-year-old feeling so loved and so happy and just appreciative to literally like the fear
Mm.
that took over,
Yeah.
the confusion.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It was terrifying. I would even say it was traumatizing for me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of people felt that, if you can even remember that, like
Yeah.
when it went left, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you're like,
Yes.
what? And I'm like, but I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
Why am I being punished? Like I said,
Yeah.
like, but I don't understand. But I, you know,
Yeah.
Right.
so why do I have to pay for something that somebody did when I wasn't even I wouldn't have done that. I would have listened. This is me as a kid.
Exactly.
Why would I? And
Exactly.
it made no sense because even as a kid, I'm thinking about like my mommy wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like with my mommy, and I'm thinking, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I don't think that people, why would God do that? So I'm glad that you brought that up because, you know, there's so many things that are contradictory.
Mhm.
There's so many things that are contradictory, and that was my thing. I mean, the fear is embedded in you so long, and the fact that, as Goddess Achilles said, this whole damn nation, like that will get you right back together. Like as soon as you start right questioning and feeling like you might want to like stand up or be like, this doesn't make sense. At the end of the day, when you like maybe feel like you may have something going, that final part of knowing, like, oh, hell, for eternity, it
Mhm.
will turn your little butt right back around and have you sit down and be like, dang, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you don't
That's
Mhm.
want to take a
that's
chance.
the whole purpose.
Like,
Right. Right.
That's the whole
Right.
purpose.
it's the whole purpose. That was perfectly done in terms of
Yes.
controlling someone when your eternity is being dictated, when you are being controlled by what is going to happen with your soul forever.
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
a whole nother level. It was genius.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was genius, but it also pisses me off and makes me sad.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like in a way, I want to be like, damn, that was good. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta give you your props because when you think about it, it makes so much sense. That was
Yeah.
perfect. It was genius, but it was diabolical at the same damn time.
Yes.
Right.
You know,
And to create again the concept around it that you can't even question it, to put that part in there itself and
Yeah.
to embed that and create the
yeah.
stories in such a way that people would read them and be like, but this is so, I mean, we have to ask questions about it. And you like, nah, this is just too magnanimous. I can't even question it. It must be
Oh
true.
snap! Did she
I mean,
freeze?
that did I
Yeah.
freeze? Am I back?
I feel. Was it mine? Was it my internet? Let me
I don't
make
know.
sure, y'all.
Y'all, I can see y'all all are both are
Juanita.
fine.
Okay.
Both are fine.
I'm like, what happened?
Okay.
All
I
right.
feel like you froze for a minute. I almost lost
I
you.
did. Okay.
Make sure this computer is charging, child, because it does this all the time. I need another cord. I just refuse to just get one. I don't know why. I'm gonna get one, y'all. Cause
When
then
the
I
friends
get it. Look, I
overlay, we
hold
be
it
like,
a certain
oh,
way.
y'all got this April.
I know, right? The whole thing just goes away. Boop. So
Right.
that's terrible. I need to stop playing with it. But it seems like I keep finding a way to situate it, and then it works again. So anyway,
Okay. But yes, I agree with everything you are saying. They have found a way to really get this stitched into the hearts
yes,
and minds and belief systems of people in a way that is just
Yeah.
unbelievable.
it is.
Mhm.
It's really sad, and I just know I remember questioning. I mean that it's the way, like you said, we're designed that way. Why create us that way?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It would be much easier to just make little robots. Like because I would ask, like, what is the purpose of our role here? And I even got stuff like, well, there's gonna be a war against good and evil, and basically, like, we're gonna be those that are worth it, are gonna be like these soldiers that are gonna fight. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm telling you, y'all,
Yeah.
right? I don't know if y'all heard that story, but these
Yes.
are the ones that's
The
gonna be
fight, the
battling.
fight of good and evil. We know.
Yeah.
Child. And I'm
Right.
like, what kind of crazy stuff? So
I mean,
that's my
the angels
purpose.
against the
That's
demons.
why.
I mean, you know, angels and demons.
Right. Right. And it's crazy. And then this whole idea too of like like you're like all of these people, all of these souls being born into this life, but you know, it's already predetermined. Is it 144,000? I
Yeah,
don't
I
remember.
believe that is what that is. Yeah.
44,000. Yeah.
But it's already known who these good, worth saving, or who's going to make it into heaven and who isn't, basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So
Mhm.
I just felt like that's so mean. Why even let us play these lives out and you already know? Like, what is
Yeah.
the point?
That
Oh,
is
because you're being given choice. Is it? It doesn't
Not
even make
really.
sense.
There's no free, there's no
Another
choice.
contradict. It
If
just
you only,
doesn't make sense.
it don't
Yeah.
make sense. Don't add up.
I'm sorry, y'all. I feel like I'm all like this, but
no, but I mean, and those components are just such a big piece of it. It's like it's so layered.
it
Yeah.
is. It
Very
is. It
complex.
really is.
I mean,
Yes.
It's
just
very,
think about,
yeah.
I mean, just think about when you, to control people back in a day when most people didn't read, right? Most people didn't even read the Bible. So with
They
those
couldn't.
people, you could control them because they couldn't read. So you could
Mhm.
read, the people that could read would read the Bible to you. So you can tell them anything and they're like, well, okay, I can't read. I just got to believe what they say. So
Mhm.
if you're dealing with a society like that, that makes sense. But once you start dealing with a more educated society, right,
Mhm.
that's not going to work because they're going to say, that don't make a lot of sense. And they're going to
Yes.
question things, right? But like you said, we were all taught you don't question God, right? You don't question the
Mhm.
creator. I mean, who are you to? And you know, I don't know how you guys grew up. I'm sure it's the same in y'all church. The minister was almost like second to God. So
That's
for
right.
you to
Mhm.
question your minister was disrespectful. It was disrespectful. I mean, you might have got stoned in the church for just trying to ask the questions from the minister. I mean, he was like next to God, like he sat by God Almighty himself and slept with him or something. I don't know. But just you know what I'm saying? He slept in the same room with him.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
if you had a question, well, man, you couldn't go ask. You have to ask the deacon or you have to ask somebody else, and they're gonna tell you whatever they want to tell you. Like, well, okay, if I'm not happy with that answer. I mean, then you're gonna be probably gonna be labeled as the crazy person, right? I mean, because some people get into this Christianity, it becomes more like how you can say a whole nother personality, all right? I mean, you know, it's really a big thing. I remember sometimes when I used to meet with these women groups and stuff like that. Oh, they get really,
Mhm.
territorial. I mean, you would have some women coming to you and they just be start trying to speak stuff over you, like telling you that God told them something about you and you got to do this or do this. This is what God told me. Like, boo. Uh, God ain't gonna come to you to tell me about me. He gonna come to me and tell me about you. You ain't got no message for me. No, you got that message for yourself.
Oh my goodness. That used to trip me out. All of these prophecies, all these messages. And that used to trip me out. God told me to tell you. I'm like, really? Okay. All
Where did that come
right.
from?
That's
You
right.
know, and everybody is an evangelist, a prophet, anyway,
Everything.
I'm not going,
I mean,
huh?
I think too. The other thing that's so crazy with the whole thing is that you see these people now, and one point of their life they're so holy than now, and the next minute you see them and their whole life is falling apart, and they're doing all kind of stuff, and you're thinking, okay, now if this Christianity thing really works, and Jesus really saves, and Jesus does all these things to change people's life, why didn't he change your life and stop you from doing the craziness? I mean, we just saying if the power is in the blood of Jesus, which we
Hmm.
said in Christianity, then
Hmm.
why hasn't that blood touched you, right?
Hmm.
Because
Why
you
didn't
this
it touch
miracle, you
you?
supposed to have been walking with God all the time. Like, how did it miss you?
No,
I'm just
No,
saying.
I
it didn't.
feel
It
that.
didn't miss them. They have. free will. That's the whole thing
Free
about
will. We all do, right? But
yes.
can the blood of Jesus, that blood that was opposed to, can it take away our free will? It really can't, right? It can't take away your free will.
It doesn't sound like it can, but that's the whole mental component of it that keeps people like, because it's like, oh, you can never do enough. And if it's always based on my will, then it always keeps me in a cycle of trying to figure out what am I not doing?
Yeah, not doing anything to get it.
Exactly. There's something I'm not getting. I know I have free will. I must not be demonstrating my love for God enough, or I must not be showing that I'm a good Christian, or I must not be doing this the way that I'm supposed to. And all of these other components. I mean, it is the ultimate control concept. I mean, and it works so well.
It works so
It
well.
does. It does. And there's this thing that on one end makes you feel like those who are obedient are rewarded, but you have like so many examples of like these almost saint-like people suffering the most. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
Even people
That's
in your lives, if you think about
contradiction.
I'm just saying they keep coming up, y'all. I just can keep going, but I'm going
The martyrs, right? The martyrs. Jesus himself,
Yes.
number one, Jesus himself, the martyrs, how they died the most horrific kinds of death.
Right.
I mean, it's like, does that really make you want to be a person do you really want to fall on the sword?
Right.
Do you really want to suffer in this life the most so you can be rewarded the most when you die? It's like,
right.
why am I worried about right now what's going to happen when I die? Why am I not trying to live my best life right now?
Well, in their eyes, it is their best life because they feel like they're living according to the word. This is like Jesus, like this is what Jesus did. So this is the best way. But then they are suffering and being used and taken advantage of and all the things because they're being a good Christian.
Yeah. Right. And they're thinking that they're following, they think based on what they've been told, how they've been taught, that they're living their life in a way. And the whole point is that you got this thing at the end. It's either you're going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell. But you don't really know what. Okay, so this thing. You're supposed to go to heaven, right? And when you go to heaven, it's supposed to be these golden streets. You're supposed to walk around singing all day, even though I don't know how you're going to walk around because you ain't got no body, right? You got a soul. So I mean, it's the whole point you think. And then you think, okay, how many people want to be in church all day here? So you telling me that my reward is going to be in church forever when I get up there?
Stop it.
I don't see how that's going
to go be in church from sun up to sundown. Where does it say that in the Bible, Juanita? Like, church service is from 6 a.m. to midnight every day. The streets are gold, rolling with milk and honey.
But I'm just saying, how many of us went to church and we sit there counting down the time and we say, okay, he can talk way too long right now, and I'm ready to go get some dinner.
No, really.
Come on now.
I think if you in
back
heaven,
in the day,
is over. You have made it to heaven. Church is over, isn't it? I feel like church should not be a requirement anymore.
Maybe not, but even the concept of, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, and this goes into fear too. This frolicking in the fields with Jesus and all the stuff that was described, right? I'm saying frolicking in the fields. That might not have been it, but that's what popped in my mind as a kid.
In the fields with Jesus.
Baby lambs and flowers. And
that's
listen,
true. They did have us coloring that. It was a lot of baby lambs.
It was. And so I'm like, forever though? Like my mind is trying to wrap around forever. Right? Like, that's it. You're in heaven now. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be. And there was something about like, and I start feeling guilty because I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that all day, every day, forever.
I don't think any of us do.
Right.
The whole point I think is that they just talked about the burning in hell. Most people go to church, do the things they want because they don't want to be damned to hell. That's it. Now that heaven thing, we don't know how we gonna work that, but we're worried about that. We just don't want to go down there and burn because we hot. We don't want to do that. we'll be up there, and when we get there, we're gonna figure it out. I think
Right.
that's how
It's
people
going to
think.
be
You know what I
great.
mean?
It's going to be amazing. And then we're just supposed to accept that, it's going to be all the things. And I was just like, forever. And then when I said that, I was like, oh, and now I'm scared because God knows everything. He knows
Yes.
what you thinking, feeling, doing. And so often, even my thoughts, I would be terrified because I'd be like, oh, like God heard that, or God, you know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
just imagine too, as a child going through puberty and then these
Yes.
natural feelings that you start having because
Yep.
we're human, we're in these human bodies, and that's part of science, the natural, right?
Yeah.
Evolution of things. And then even that's wrong when it
Yes.
comes to your body and intimacy and thoughts of sex and being curious.
Yeah.
Now the amount of fear, it can really be debilitating and even cause, for me, I know that it came along with some anxiety and depression.
Yeah. Yeah.
My personal, like, that's how the torn between feeling loved on one hand and being extremely afraid on the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It really created this, talking about my art imbalance. There was an imbalance in my body, mind, and soul on a
Yeah.
regular as I
Mm.
tried to make sense of this, right?
Yeah.
What I was being told. But everything in me was saying, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right. And
Don't feel
why?
right. Yeah. It's
But
not
I
right.
can't
Right.
ask. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of
Yeah.
like you've been brought here as and put into this body, and it's almost like you feel like this body that you're in is like working against you, right? I mean, basically saying your flesh is, you got all these feelings of the flesh, and you got to try to fight. Your soul has to fight your flesh, and you think, okay, why did I come down here to be in total conflict with my own human self? I mean, that I
Oof.
mean,
Oof.
I mean, that's just, it's like, why do I have to
What
live this
kind of
life
journey
without
is this?
conflict? It's like my
Yes.
body wants to do this and my mind, so it's a total battle between my mind and my body. I want to do this, but my soul says no. You're gonna be damned to hell if you do it. And I'm in this constant state of, and that sounds like chaos and craziness, right? It doesn't sound like any type
Yeah.
of harmony, balance, peace, restoration. I mean, it
Yeah.
don't sound like any of those things. And so you think, okay, I'm going to live this life in complete chaos, and then somehow I'm going to die, and all of a sudden I'm going to be at peace.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, well, what was the struggle down here about? I mean, what was that struggle, all of that struggle, what was it about? Because couldn't I just be in peace while I'm here too? I mean, it's like, why can't I have some heaven right here? Why
Right.
do I
Yeah.
have to wait? Why do I have to struggle? I don't know how many times, oh, this life is about trials and tribulations. Why does it have to be about trials and tribulations all the time? I understand we need some lessons to grow, but
I
can I
know.
have some heaven right here? Can I
I
You
enjoy some
can.
parts of this life right now? Is this something?
You
I mean, what is
can.
so wrong with that?
I don't
Nothing.
know. Yeah.
And go ahead. I'm sorry, God.
No. Go ahead, Goddess April.
No, I mean, and that's the whole point. I mean, I think that's why most people who end up just saying "Fuck it," and take their spiritual journeys
Yeah, somewhere
and
else.
and and release themselves, give themselves permission to go ahead and ask and seek, because that internal conflict, you being at war and at odds with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it will it and I'm telling you, I really truly feel that folks, a lot of folks, those who are Christian, these, the depression, anxiety, and all of these things, some of it, a lot of it is tied to your faith. A lot of it is tied
Yeah.
to these things that create. Just think about, like, what I just said, this internal conflict. You're at odds with yourself and you're constantly feeling not good enough. You're
Yeah.
being told that you're not worthy.
Yeah.
You're not worthy. You need to
You're not worthy.
understand that. God loves you anyway, even though you're not ish.
Yeah, you're not the
Thank
stuff.
goodness, thank Him, thank the Lord that He still loves you anyway and is giving you mercy.
Yes.
And all you were born. That's
Mhm.
You
all.
were born. That's all it
You
took.
were
You be
born.
born to
So
be
You are
born.
wretched.
right. You
You are
Wretched,
started
a wretched
filthy
sinner.
rags,
right. That's
not
what you
worthy of
come.
anything. And you think, dang,
Yes.
that's deep. That's
You. I mean, I would never ever want my children to feel that way.
I
Mhm,
wouldn't either. I want
mhm,
anybody to feel that way, right? Nobody should feel that
But
way.
but if you're in Christianity, you eventually have to teach your child that if you're going by the teachings that we grew up with
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah. You would,
right,
because that's what it said, right?
Yeah.
right.
You'll
It did.
have to make sure they understand that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank goodness
Thank God.
we all figured out how to overcome
Thank
that
goodness.
fear
Thank
Mhm.
goodness.
and find out that we are able to create our own heaven on earth, that we can experience heaven right now if we choose.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so I love to pass it over to Goddess Juanita
Yes.
and let her talk about actually how we go about embracing this personal divinity so that we can do just that, overcome that fear and start living our best lives right now. And we don't have to wait for it.
Yes. So thank you, Goddess April. And I know we've been having such a good
What is going
conversation
on?
about this fear. And so I think as we've been talking kind of like over all of our episodes, we've been talking about, I mean, I think our first episode was embracing the God or the goddess, right? And
Yeah.
how we want to embody our divinity. And I think that is what you have to understand when you're going on this spiritual journey, that it's not about anything that's outside of you. It's
Mhm.
all about everything that's within you, right? Everything that's within you is what's is going to enable you to go through this life's
Excuse
journey,
me.
and you're going to face whatever lessons you have to face, and you will be able to come them. So basically, when you're embracing your God, your goddess, one of the things that you have to learn how to do is really, I guess you could say, empower yourself, right? And we've been talking over the last couple over the weeks, all the different tools. Last week we were talking about divination tools, right? And we were talking about all those things that we use to go within ourselves, right? Whether it's meditation, we're using oracle cards, we're using the pendulum, we're going before our ancestors. All of those things allow us to get in contact with our divine self and to ask questions. And one of the things I think that is very important when we are, I guess, experiencing things, you know, just like talking about what's going on today. One of the things I've learned, I think the goddesses we've all talked about, is one of the ways of trying to overcome fear is not letting it enter you in the first place. And a lot of ways to do that is you have to
Mm.
really guard what you listen to, what you look at on TV. You know, I have decided, and it's just a personal thing, I don't have anything against slavery movies. I don't have anything against it. I think everybody needs to understand that. But for me, I have just decided I do not watch them anymore. And I
Yeah.
don't watch them not because I'm afraid of, not because I don't believe that things happen. It's just because for me, my spirit says, we know what happened, we did it, but we don't have to go take ourselves through that horrific event again. Done it, seen it, know what had happened, bad time in history, but let's not relive it. Don't need to do that. And so that's just something, even like violent. If I'm watching a movie and all it start people shooting, killing, it's just one after another, my spirit will say, turn it off. Not nothing you need to see, right? And you know, today I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of this with the politics. We're seeing a lot of this trying to make you choose a side, right? Um, and making you feel like, oh, these bad things are going to happen. If this person's in office, this bad thing's going to happen in that person's office. I don't necessarily think that I think one person or the other is going to by themselves make anything uh, different for you as an individual, because still you came here, you were sent here, you had a soul contract, right? To come here at this specific time, this specific place, because you had a part to play. Now, what we're all trying to figure out is what was our part to play. Our part play could be something to do with the political. It could have something to do with that. You will have to find that for yourself. It could have something to do with something totally different. But I think one of the things you have to do to overcome fear is really try to figure out, why are you here? What did you come from? And no matter what's going on around you, you stay on that path. You stay on the path that you've been told this is your intention. This is what you came to do. And you'll see all the other things going on around you. But what you will find out is that it's not really impacting you because you're on your assignment. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And as a God and a goddess, that's what we have to stay. We can't let the world. One thing I will say about religious, there was a verse in there that used to say, hey, you not can't be swayed by what every little thing going this way and that way. It didn't say it exactly like that, but it was kind of like that. You're not going to be swayed by the world because you're going to be, you got to have a purpose. So one of the things I think we talked about, we've talked about in some of our things is that you understanding your purpose, and how you do that is by going within and finding out, why am I supposed to be here? What am I supposed to be doing? Also, going before your ancestors, your spirit guides, you can have like whatever's going on with your life, you can have them to help bring you the strength to overcome whatever fear that you're having. A lot of, if you go back and look at a lot of the mythologies from the African time and from Egyptian time, you'll see a lot of those stories had to do with them having to face some type of fear and then them having to overcome that fear, right? The Osiris story. Let's see, I was going to talk about a couple of stories. Kind of just want to go through a couple of them. There was a like Egyptian story, Osiris in the underworld, right? Osiris, the god of the afterlife, was murdered by his brother Seth, and he was dismembered, and his body was scattered all over the place, right? And then Osiris had to, he had to face the fear of his death and dismemberment. And then Isis, overcoming that fear, she actually went around, got all his pieces, put him back together, and resurrected him, right? So Osiris's resurrection symbolizes the triumph over death and fear, emphasizing the power of restoration and rebirth, which that means to us that we're living this life, but we shouldn't be afraid of death because this is not the only life that we have. This is not the only life that we have. So we don't have to, we have to be afraid that something's horrible going to happen in this life. My life is going to come to an end, because guess what? Your life is definitely going to come to an end, right? We all know that. We all are born and we die. That happens. So you being afraid of death makes no sense. You being afraid that the world is going to come to an end. I mean, I think that's crazy to me. The world's been around for millions, billions, trillions of years. I mean, I'm just saying, if it's been going on for that long, am I worried about it being destroyed one day and we're not having any place? I mean, we already know, we see all the time that the earth can recycle itself. I mean, you can see a place where it's been totally burned, and maybe a couple of weeks later, you'll see something growing up out of the ground. So the earth, you don't have to worry about the creator. The creator knows what it's doing. It's been keeping this planet spinning and in suspension all these trillions of years. Whatever we can do is nothing that's going to stop that from happening. We don't have that much power. Right? The creator that created everything has all the power. So you don't have to worry about that. So I think you have to really go within yourself and find the peace, right? That peace is what you're looking for when you're trying to overcome fear. You're looking for a peace that no matter what happens on the outside, you still are on your course. And if you can find, number one, what your purpose is, you can start having a spiritual practice where you're going before your altar, or you're meditating, or you're doing something. Maybe you're praying to your ancestors. Maybe you're praying to the creator. But make sure that you're consistently doing this practice over and over again. And if you can be consistent with your practice, that is what's going to keep you strong. When something comes up and somebody says, oh, I don't know, something's had to happen bad. And you'll say, well, if it does, I'll be okay. The other thing I noticed a really good practice to do when you're having a fear about something, sit down and meditate and see that worst thing that you think is going to happen. Imagine that worst thing. But when you imagine that worst thing, see yourself overcoming. You see that worst thing coming, and then see yourself being okay. So it's like, let your mind take you through the exercise of whatever you're afraid of. Like if you're afraid of being in a pit of snakes or something, sit down and meditate. See yourself being in that situation, and then see yourself being okay. See yourself coming out of it. See yourself, hey, nothing happened, right? That's the best way to start getting over your fear. And then if it's something that you can face, start trying to take, little steps. I've heard people being, afraid of public speaking or getting in front of a crowd and speaking. Well, then go join some type of class where you have to do that and make yourself do it. And what you'll find out is once you start doing it, it won't really be that bad. You know what I mean? You'll be like, what was I afraid of? It's like we're always afraid of something maybe that we haven't done or something that we experienced the first time. But you don't have to stay there. You can overcome your fears by, like I
Mhm.
said, going within, by going and doing the experience that you're afraid of. So there's so many ways. And what I was just saying with our spiritual journeys, as we've all been talking, is that we know religion. I mean, I think that's what we talked about, has been a whole lot of reasons that we have these fears, because in that it's taught us to be afraid of things. Like we have to be afraid of different things because the devil is always there. He's always watching. So I grew up as a kid thinking, oh my God, the devil's watching everything I'm doing. He's just waiting for that opportunity to put something in my way to make me stumble or whatever. And I'm thinking, man, this I really have this thing outside of me that's making me do things bad, that wants me to do something, that wants me to trip up. This whole thing, and you're thinking, okay, what's the devil? I mean, I know sometimes I hear a voice and something will happen, and I'll hear another voice I say, but what is that voice? Is that really the devil, or is that just something with me thinking? And so I think that whole thing about the devil in Christianity made you think that you had something outside of you that actually could make you do something that you didn't even want to do. Like you would
Mhm.
do this thing, and oh Lord, the devil made me do it. I would do this horrible thing, and I had no control. But that's just not true. You have the control. It is all in your hands, and you just have to, like we say, embody your divinity, right? Embody that thing within you, and that's going to help you to be able to be control in any situation.
Mhm.
So that's all I had to add, goddesses.
Mm. Well, I love everything you said. And what I will also say on top of what Goddess Juanita is saying, the Ethiopian Bible has a lot of things in it about divination and mysticism and things of that
Mm.
nature. Those things were removed
Mm,
from that Bible to give you a more distilled version, again, because they did not want people to be able to tap into and understand and practice those types of gifts or talents or what was, you know, that work. They didn't want people being able to do that, because if I allow you to believe that you are kind of magical,
mm-hmm.
how can I control you?
You can't.
I mean, so what I hope that people walk away with, more than anything, is just curiosity
Yeah.
about what is going on and what you believe in. I think we've talked about this before, goddesses. We have faith in a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not just conserved for this. You have faith that your medicine is going to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have faith that you're going to get up in the morning and go to work and everything's going to be the same way that it was. You have faith that after you eat dinner tonight, you're going to be full. You have faith that your child is going to come home this evening because
Yeah.
they left and now they'll be back. We have faith in all kinds of things.
Very
But
true.
very often we don't put faith in what we have the ability to do. We don't realize how remarkable we
Yeah.
actually are, and we don't make the decision to live in that space. And I think Christianity and a lot of religions put people in a space where they just never even consider
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
as a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
religion in itself, it takes away your
Mhm.
ability to believe that you can control anything,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It totally takes
It
it away.
does.
It makes you think that everything is happening outside of you and
Mhm.
you don't have any control. The only thing you can do is worship enough, believe enough, have faith enough, and hopefully, maybe the creator that loves you so much, but your filthy rags might decide to help you out.
Mhm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very disempowering. You're right. It makes it so, because if you think about it, like we're saying, anything good is God, right? Anything that happens anything that you do, anything that someone does for you. Like there's so many people who will, someone will do something for them, but they won't even thank the person. They'll say, thank God. They
Yes.
will praise God, praise Jesus. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but literally, that person doesn't even matter. It was God that did that. Like, so everything good is God, right? God had favor on me. And then anything bad, like we're saying, is the devil.
Yeah.
So you're off the hook both ways, right? Like, you don't get to take ownership of anything good, nor does anyone else. And when
Yeah.
it comes to anything bad, it's the devil.
Yeah.
So in a way, I mean, that's a powerlessness, but it also makes you, you're not even responsible for anything.
That's it.
In a way, you get to, and not only can you blame the devil or some demon or being possessed or whatever it is, child, you also get to repent,
Yeah.
Yes.
right?
No
Yeah.
You
matter how
also
bad.
get to, it doesn't matter what you do. If you claim and accept Christ as your savior, and you also repent whatever foul thing that you have done, right?
Yeah.
You are forgiven, and you have the ability to still enter the pearly gates of heaven.
Yes.
Not with your riches though. You got to come in broke.
You gotta be broke.
That's right.
Because
That's
a rich
right.
man can't get into the eye of a needle with a piece of thread.
It
You
ain't
can't make
happening.
friends. It's not gonna happen. You got to
Isn't that something?
You gotta be poor.
you got to be dirt poor to get in here.
That's
In
right.
enslaved people. That's your only ticket in. You got to be broke.
Well, our ancestors was saying they know they was getting in because they didn't have nothing, even the clothes on their
Okay, like, yes, we are shoe-ins in this bad boy. We
Okay,
getting in
all right,
there.
we sure to get in. Okay. They said the meek will inherit the earth. I ain't said nothing for 3 years. Okay. Child, you know what? That is
I mean,
diabolical.
Oh,
we're joking about it,
we
but
joking about it. I was saying I'm joking about it, but I was in it deep myself back in the day. But you couldn't beat me getting into the church. Oh my God.
That's right. Listen, when I got baptized when I was 11 years old, because when I was in church, I said I
yes,
felt like God told
Yes.
me that was something that I needed to do. I made my husband get baptized. I had our son baptized because I was like, listen, y'all all need to get right now. We have
right,
to be able to live our lives in a way that is close to godliness. And I am trying to be
right.
a good mother. I'm trying to be a virtuous wife. I'm trying to
Yes.
get
Mhm.
Oh
all
yeah.
these
The
things
virtuous woman.
accomplished. Yep, that's right. Okay, I have plans out here. And if I'm not able to, follow the word of God and y'all not falling in line with this, we're not going to make it. We got plans, y'all.
Okay. I need
And
all of us
listen,
to make it in there.
exactly. Okay. When I get up to heaven, y'all need to be there. That is the plan. That's what I heard was supposed to
Yes,
happen.
We all
So
gonna meet on the other side.
that's right.
that's
That's right.
right.
But once I started breaking down these stories and again, understanding where they came from, you can go back to places in Africa right now and see the stories
Yep.
that these Bible stories were pulled from.
We saw
Today,
some of
you
it
can
with our
see
own
it.
Yes,
eyes.
we
Yes,
did.
you can
We
see it
did.
today. The proof is still there today. We're
It
not
is.
on this podcast just saying magical things and just saying, well, this is what you need to believe. No, you can go and still see it today. And that's
Yeah.
why I say all we have to do is a little bit of research and want to know. And
Yeah.
in today's age, with all of this technology that I know people have mixed feelings about, I'm going to tell you what, it has opened the entire door
Yes.
for you to
Yes.
be able to study and understand. And Black people, if I can't tell you anything else, it is imperative for us to actually understand our history.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Extremely imperative. And there's going to be things where I know people are going to be like, well, it depends on who's telling it and then who's over here. Listen, we understand that. Okay. I know that that's always something. But again, understand that your ancestors, so many millennia ago,
Hmm.
understood some key principles that modern scientists now are just barely being able to wrap
Yes.
their. If I see another article that comes out on Google talking about we know how the pyramids finally was built, every couple months I see a new article that says this.
They still don't know.
You still don't know. So I don't want to hear anything about you telling me anything about the lack of science, knowledge, math, anything possible
Yeah.
Yep.
that
Yeah.
we
They
didn't
figured it
have
out. Yep.
exactly as a people. I don't want to hear any of that. What y'all better do is understand what it was, what it looked like, get that understanding and that knowledge and start making these connections to how we got here today.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really what we want to do in this particular podcast. We want to help you tap into the power that is you. You are so remarkable,
Yeah.
so very
Absolutely.
remarkable. And there are so many things that have been put in your way to make you believe that you're not.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
while we love, again, all of the components, so many different components of spirituality and what it has to offer, it's so much bigger than
Yes.
even what we can conceive. The
Yeah.
image that's been given to you and the container that our spirituality is being delivered in
Yeah.
is nowhere near
Yeah.
No, really.
what we need to be taking in as melanated people.
Yeah.
It is. That's it's so true. And I just want to say this too, because I mentioned how like how genius this lie was
Mm-hmm,
in terms of convincing us about, the whole damnation thing.
mm-hmm,
Well, a lot of things. But, you know, the whole idea that as a people, which is why when you were speaking earlier, I didn't want to, interrupt you, but I did just want to interject and hoping that you would touch on the
mm-hmm,
genius that
Mm.
came along with who we were,
mm-hmm,
right? And
mm-hmm,
are, okay? um and how much that has been a part of the plan too, in terms of invalidating us,
mm-hmm,
right? So that we're questioning, if we do question or who we look, who we trust, we don't trust ourselves, but we
mm-hmm,
don't trust ourselves in terms of believing
Hmm.
what what comes out of our own mouths
mm-hmm,
as a community, as a collective. we
Yeah.
don't we don't trust each other in terms of being able to build, but we also we're skeptical in terms of accepting and embracing what was all the way back then. But there's so much data, and there's even folks, okay, our very light skinned brethren and sisters.
Yeah.
When I say that, right, they have themselves given credit,
Yeah.
but people won't tell you that. They won't. It's there where they have said that they studied and got this information from, and they studied in Egypt,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
that they got this knowledge from there. There
mm-hmm,
are history books that talk about, that go back and tell you what was happening way back then, and who held the power and the gold and the knowledge and the wealth, and wealth not just being money, but I mean, it is there if you allow yourself to look.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So we have been convinced to not question when it comes to our faith, but also our history,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
our
Yes.
lineage. our
Mm-hmm.
birthrights, our
Mm-hmm.
DNA, what's in us. Like we, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why this whole thing about knowing where you came from so you can know where you're going. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it makes so much sense because we've been convinced
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we began at slavery, number one. Like it all just
Mm-hmm.
began at
Yeah,
slavery for us.
That's
yeah,
You know
right.
what I'm saying? Nothing before that,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
nothing important
right.
happened really and truly outside of Rome and Greece.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that part. Right.
Okay. If I see another story that is saying that this is the beginning of philosophy, art, language,
What I'm
and they
saying.
know good and well, where
But
do you
those
think they got it from?
but they tell you in their own books that they write that that's
Yes,
where they got it from. That's what I'm
yes,
they
saying.
do.
And
yeah,
we
they do.
They do.
I'm just
The
saying.
Da Vinci's, the Aristotles, all they cite their source,
Yeah,
but
They do.
they don't the society doesn't want to continue that because then it makes no sense for you to again go through the process of enslaving these people and trying to make a case that they are less than human. It
yeah,
just
Yeah.
yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I just
mhm,
wanted to add one more thing about the fear component because I would think, people always talk about what happened to Africa and how
mhm,
did we allow them to come over and take us and rule us. And in my spirit, it says one thing: we did not fear them because that was not in our DNA. We were people who saw other people as opportunities to build relationships and community with.
mhm,
So when we saw them coming, even though they looked different from us,
mhm,
we felt like they would be the same as we would be because they were human, right? We thought they would be that way. We had no idea that they had so much fear and so much hate and these things that in our communities we didn't have. We didn't. That was not our spirit. We communed with nature. Nature was a part of us, and we were a part of nature. And we knew what rituals to do if there was things that was disruptive in our communities. If somebody was suffering or in need, we had a ritual. We had medicines. We had things that we would do to calm the community and keep everybody on one accord.
mhm,
We did not know. Yeah, we might have had little tribal things going on with each other, but
mhm,
we never even imagined
Hmm.
that there would be a people that would be so about death, destruction, and
Hmm.
I mean things that we didn't even could even imagine, right?
mhm, mhm,
So
mhm,
we come from a culture did not have fear. We did not fear because we felt like nature was always with us. We didn't fear storms. We didn't fear these because we felt like nature was on our side. And it was things that sometimes when it cycles, nature might have do something one day, but it was going to calm back down. It was all for whatever it was all going to work out for our good.
mhm.
We had no idea that there could be a people that was so broken and so, I don't know, chaotic that they
Afraid.
could just come
Mhm,
in and do the things that these people did. And so
mhm,
you have to understand that to understand when we come into this Western society, the kind of people, the DNA that runs through these people that we have to deal with, right? You got to
mhm,
get that part because that's a whole different concept
mhm,
than what
Yeah.
our ancestors came from. They were community, always trying to be with the spirit and nature. You see, here we live in a society where they don't care about polluting the air. They don't care about polluting the water. They don't care about killing animals to make more room for some kind of development.
mhm,
They'll kill animals for sport.
mhm, mhm,
Beautiful elephants and kill them just for the little iron tusk. This beautiful, magnificent animal. I
mhm,
mean, just for a little piece of them. Just
mhm,
think about that.
mhm.
That's the last thing I have to say about the food.
There's so much.
I know. I'm like, oh,
We'll be here all night.
yeah. It's a different world.
It
It
is.
Europe was a very different space than what Africa was. And that's why when I talk about Africa, I talk about the fact that every resource, every mineral,
Yep.
anything that you would want, just like they're there now,
I was gonna
sucking
say,
everything out
still
of
are.
Africa.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that's why, because everything is there, was there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. So when you are surrounded by you have so many resources, you have such abundance, you have
Mm.
people that, again, function in structured societies, and you're building things and you're doing, like, what would be your need to go destroy other societies of people? Like, why would that even come up
Yeah.
as
Why would it
as
go? Yeah.
something that you would need to do, right?
Yeah.
So I do think it is, like, Goddess Juanita said, a very different mindset in
Mm.
terms of what we are, and again, what we were. I just don't believe that that is how we thought about things. So
Yeah.
it just,
Me either.
I think it just caught us off guard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, what's
Absolutely.
happening?
Yep.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I just want to say that it's never our intention to be divisive by any stretch of the imagination. We are
Mm-mm.
simply just speaking our perspectives, our realities, how we see things, being a part of a people who we know the history, right? All that we endured, and coming to find out what we actually are and what we come from,
Mhm.
and feeling a need to share that,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
um and even on the spiritual level, how we don't have to live in fear. We don't have to continue to live our lives feeling worthless and afraid and all of these things. And learning that, who and what we are, and that you can feel empowered and you can create your own reality. And despite what's happening around you, you can live a peaceful life, right? And that, I would say, may sound like a stretch for some people. I think that I know a lot of people, we're saying a lot, and it's a lot to process and take in, and fear can be difficult. It definitely was a journey for each of us in terms of getting to that place.
Mhm.
So we're hoping that today was a part of your journey,
Mhm.
right? A step forward and toward that reality, that where you can live in joy and happiness, right? and
Mhm.
and and we're creating it as we go. Don't get it twisted. Like this it doesn't come without challenges, because
Oh yeah.
the reality that we live in is designed that way. It's designed to be dual natured, and right, it comes with its challenges. But
Mhm.
that's the thing, is you get to constantly remember and remind and practice and divine, and remember what it is that you are, and the power that you hold.
Mhm.
And so, we're hoping that this podcast has helped a little bit with that. But we're very excited about our next episode, because if all goes well, right?
Woo!
Uh, which
Yeah.
it will. What you
Yeah.
say, Goddess Achilles?
Yeah. I said, woo!
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a special guest joining us, who we're hoping will help to, because it was helpful for us. We're hoping will help tie some loose ends together for you, and maybe giving you even more hope,
Yeah.
especially if you are still in Christianity, if you're questioning, if you're tired of living in fear, if you, are wondering, okay, this is all that I know. I'm
Mm.
not happy, but what else? Like, what can I go into? What would be next? What do I do? How do I be spiritual? Like, what does that mean? So we're hoping that we've helped you with that. But we talk about KCO all the time,
Mhm.
because it's been such a magical part of our own spiritual journey.
Yeah.
We were questioning, seeking, searching, and asking. And in terms of, I think, connecting those dots between
Yeah.
this thing, aka Christianity, that we grew up in and it was embedded in us, and this direction, this place that we just knew we had to get to in terms of being, right? This divine being and living right in that. KCO was just such a profound part in that, I think, for each of us. And so we are so excited to have the creator and founder of that, Reginald Kuakaru Martin, join us next Sunday here on the Goddess-ity podcast to talk more about KCL, because
Yes.
some of you may actually benefit from it yourselves.
Mhm.
Definitely.
You know, and of course, still tune in with us.
Right. That's
Continue
right.
to tune in with us every week. But we're not going to hold you guys anymore. We so appreciate your
Yeah.
time. We appreciate whenever you happen to watch this, we appreciate you being here.
Mhm.
This has been another great conversation, and we look forward to seeing you next week. So thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day. Ashe.
Ashe.